Hello ladies and gentlemen, Pans here and welcome back to Overwatch. The topic of the video today isn't so much just a guide, but also a plea to the community of Overwatch players in general, and to point out some of the problems with the systems provided in the game. Now, we see this all the time in almost any game. It's commonplace. Players bitching about their team, hurling abuse in every direction through the chat, calling the game GG barely a minute in, and generally bitching about everything instead of actually playing the game. So what can we do about this? Well, first things first, people are going to be assholes on the internet whenever they're given the chance, so that's not going to change. However, what we can change is how we deal with such players. In a casual match, it can be annoying as hell, but in a competitive match, it's more than that. It's something you actually have to stick around for and deal with. So the first thing I will advise players to do is simply ignore them. Don't feed the troll, as the saying goes, but simply, it's certainly true to just not fuel the fire. Since Blizzard has opted to remove the choice to avoid this player, we don't have the chance of simply not seeing them in a game again, so instead here's what you do. If the match is still ongoing and they're mouthing off in the voice channel, simply hit the P key to access the voice channels and mute them. After all, once they've turned abusive, they're not going to contribute anything useful and it's all just unnecessary noise. Don't leave the channel entirely, but you can mute active players. Now, if the player is actively refusing to cooperate with the team, then there's not a lot you can do to sort the problem out while the game is going on, but what you can instead do is attempt to salvage the game and be the model player that everyone wants on their team. So look at the team composition, and if you see a role that isn't being fulfilled, switch to that role and attempt to adapt to the team's current playstyle. Yes, especially in quick play, it's likely to be a disorganized mess. However, more often than not, players will actively rally towards players that are playing the objective. Now, it might sound overly optimistic, but in the time I've spent in quick play, I've seen this happen more than half the time. If you push for the objective and actually make some progress, people have a tendency to follow even if you're not actively communicating it. And that's another thing, communication is also important. Forget typing in the chat. Just use the macro wheel instead to let your team know what you're asking them to do. Not only is this faster, it's also easier to understand and focuses on simple requests such as grouping up or requesting healing. Now, if you're wondering why you can't just leave a game that's gone sour, well, there's a simple answer. If the team is being plagued by a useless player that's going to do nothing but bitch, then leaving the game is going to result in an even smaller team of players that then has to deal with the same person. Short of everybody simultaneously leaving and throwing the game, you end up sort of abandoning that team, and what this means is that a team that then has a hard time of winning is going to have even less of a chance of winning, and that's unfair and unsportsmanlike, and we should never, under any circumstances, be encouraging that sort of culture. One last thing, once the game has ended, it's best to leave and re-queue, but before you do that, check the chat log by hitting enter and scrolling through. Look for the player that was hurling abuse and right-click on their name and hit that report button. Now, unfortunately, Blizzard has only provided a few categories to report players under, and none of them really fit the bill. The closest thing that you could report them under would be harassment, but be sure to include in the section below unsportsmanlike conduct, abusing other players, or something similar. Hopefully Blizzard will give us more detailed categories in future, or introduce a better way of dealing with toxic players, but for now this is what we have. Now, I certainly do not advocate reporting players for simply bitching about the team. Unfortunately, that's not really something that's worth getting suspended over. However, when they turn abusive and start throwing all sorts of insults around, that's where you can and should report the players. After all, it's up to us as a community to keep this community clean, and if we don't report the players that exhibit such disgusting behaviour, then nothing can be done about them. And yeah, you might think that a simple report might not do anything, but that's only because we don't see the actions that are carried out. But just think for a moment that if a player is really that toxic and they do get reported often enough, then something can definitely be done about them. But what do you... Of course, Blizzard themselves are working on solving the issue as well. In a recent interview with Kotaku, Jeff Kaplan said, "It's a big concern for us. I think for the most part the Overwatch community has been fantastic. I think as the game ages, people's dark sides tend to come out a little bit more, and definitely when you put the competitive stakes in there." He also went on to say, There are some systems that are under the hood we've been tweaking as well. A lot of this is very black box, and for a reason. We don't talk about it because if we talk about it too much, players can exploit behavior. This of course suggests that there are some systems that are being worked on that Blizzard themselves are unwilling to share with the public just because they are worried people might take advantage of those systems if they manage to figure them out. He also commented on the reporting system, saying that he would like to see people who report players to be given some sort of feedback if action is taken against the offending players. In addition, they're also working on the positive community aspect of things. Kaplan mentioned that they're working on social systems that would allow people to play with players that they enjoy playing with. For example, one of the systems he spoke about would allow you to simply click on a player you enjoy playing with in your current match, and form a temporary grouping of sorts so you can continue playing with them for that session. This would probably be put on top of existing systems, so you wouldn't need to share Battle.net IDs or anything like that to make it happen. But what do you guys think? Should toxic players be banned outright? What more can Blizzard do to help keep the community clean? And have you encountered players like this in your own matches? Let me know down in the comments below, and don't forget to leave a like if you've enjoyed the video, and subscribe if you're new to the channel. My name is Panzer, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.